Two men who rode the tides of an electorate demanding change. They both have a business background and vowed to use that experience to create jobs, spur private sector growth, and put money in citizens' pockets. But are Donald Trump and Alan Chastanet as similar as some people think? St. Lucia's Prime Minister says no. Chastanet says any similarity between him and the U.S. president, known for his abrasive platform antics, voter repression and marginalization of key demographics, ends at their business acumen. He says there is so much more that sets him apart from Trump, starting with the fact that the U.S. president had no public sector experience.
Remember, I was an economist within the government. I was a director of tourism. I was a minister of tourism. So actually my experience within the public sector is substantially more so. So I've not come into here, I believe, unrealistic. I mean, I understand what the strengths and the weaknesses of the public sector are. I believe I do know how to work with the public sector. And so therefore I have that benefit. And even in terms of world affairs, as Minister of Tourism and being a member of a cabinet for 5 years, as Director of Tourism, even when I was at Air Jamaica was still a quasi-business private public sector agency, so I worked very extensively with the government of Jamaica.
One similarity Chastanet is embracing has less to do with personality traits and more with the context in which both he and the U.S. president were elected. He says both the St. Lucian and U.S. electorate were hungry for change.
The fact is, Mr. Trump would not have been successful if there was not a sentiment within the population that they want to change. And I think that that's another good comparison is that we were elected on the basis of change, building a new St. Lucia, and that it cannot be business as usual, and that there has to be a more of a business approach to what we're trying to do in terms of sustainability.
As for his views on a Trump presidency, Chastanet says if the U.S. leader can grow the economy in excess of 4% as he has pledged to, it will be good news for the world. He is holding out hope that Trump can deliver on his much-debated slogan and, quote, make America great again.
I am frustrated by the bureaucracy and by the politics that we have. I think that the legislator should be independent and people should be elected, and you can have a party system, so whether they have the control of the House or whatever. And I think it should be the responsibility of the legislator to hire a CEO who's actually going to run the administration of the government. And that CEO will also have VPs of all the different ministries. And that if in fact that person is not performing, the legislator fires him.
Reasons why government shouldn't be run like a business. With Reaganism of the 1980s came the idealistic political stance that governments should be run like a business, with the president as both CEO and commander-in-chief, and Americans as shareholders and customers. Here are 3 reasons why the government shouldn't be run like a business. 1. Profit versus people. A corporation's mission is to make profits. This isn't just good business sense, it's also a legally binding component of incorporating. Government's mission is to provide for all citizens through the common good, things like roads, schools, and police protection. In fact, if a government is profiting, then they are probably hoarding tax dollars for no good reason. Microsoft may be smart for keeping $36.1 billion in cash and liquid short-term investments, but the government would be letting people down if they sat on that much money and weren't using it to keep the country running. 2. Shareholders versus citizens. There are 535 people in Congress, the president, and 9 judges. All of these politicians and judges answer to over 300 million Americans. That's a lot of decision makers, but it's this system of checks and balances that works to ensure each person's voice is heard. It isn't perfect. Lobbyists, special interests, and corruption still exist, but consider the alternative. As a minor shareholder in a major company, you wouldn't even have the opportunity to vote on major business decisions, like whether or not to remove a failing CEO. 3. Customers versus constituents. Companies have the luxury of dumping a line of business because it isn't profitable, or choose to streamline their offerings to serve just one sector of the population. Government agencies do not have this option. This is a good thing. Imagine if Apple ran the government. Fire and police departments would only answer calls to the homes of 20-something hipsters. We'd all have to use iTunes to file our taxes, and all legal disputes would be resolved at the Genius Bar. It would be horrible.
And the most alarming statistic of all, Mr. Speaker, was that the debt to GDP ratio will exceed 90% by the end of March 31st, 2021. Mr. Speaker, these numbers speak for themselves, and Mr. Speaker, clearly show an economy in crisis and in danger of becoming a failed state. Mr. Speaker, St. Lucia finds itself in uncharted territory, and it appears that we are knocking on the IMF door.
We've borrowed almost $500 million in 3 months.
Wait. You borrowing too much money?
The big argument really has been, are you taking on too much debt? And this is what we keep on trying to explain to everyone.
The Prime Minister equates St. Lucia's ability to access multinational loan funding as the litmus test for the economy's creditworthiness on the international market. Senator Auger holds a contrary view.
So it's not sustainable. And what will give us comfort is to know that whatever situation we are in, 3 billion, 4 billion, 5 billion, it really doesn't matter. The question is it sustainable? And it is not everything that you can do, that you should do.
So to go and borrow more money, we've borrowed almost $500 million.
Wait.
Mr. Speaker, the government has borrowed over $400 million this year. It has borrowed over $400 million this year, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the government boasts
again, the member
about
is using information to mislead the House. How much you borrow doesn't mean that it's attributing and going towards the debt of the country.
What?
So when you talk about that the Prime Minister is acting like a businessman and he thinks it's a business, well, that's how you act in business. It's not about profit, it's about process. So guess what? Acting like a politician, this is what you get. You get debt up to the kazoo.
St. Lucia's public sector debt has increased by more than $900 million, or 30%, since the Chastanet administration took office in 2016. According to this table, St. Lucia's debt is highest in the Eastern Caribbean, close to $350 million more in the red than number 2, Antigua and Barbuda.